It's time that I show you how to actually use Bubblemaps technology. In this video, we're going to break down 3 different ways that we can actually analyze different tokens and some key things that can help you be better about analyzing and dissecting on-chain activity. We're going to be taking a look at Shiba Inu, in which a whale owns $2.5 billion of SHIB. With the magic node functionality, can see exactly how much of the supply is owned and how many wallets control all of that. We can also utilize time travel to take a look at the Trump token from the day it launched until recently to see has supply gone up or down, what's actually happened with it, how's the holder base look, and start to analyze in real time what's been going on with the infamous Trump token. And of course, the last one, which you may all be familiar with, was the PvP we saw on Nero, a token that launched on Sol and ETH, and how the one that actually had the most supply control was not ideal and could have saved yourself a ton of money by utilizing Bubblemaps tools to help break down exactly where and who owned the supply, were they dumping, and start to dissect that in real time. So of course, the first one that I want to take a look at here and talk about is SHIB. And many people are familiar with SHIB. One of the most infamous meme coins, has a ton of volume still to this day. People wonder why, how, who, when, and what owns this. It's obviously kind of the baby brother or sister to Doge when it comes to meme coins. So utilizing magic nodes, which is a feature functionality from Bubblemaps to help analyze how much of a supply is controlled by how many wallets and not allowing a person to actually hide their paper trail, we can see SHIB, 10% of the supply was spread out across 150 wallets. The deployer was owning 50% of the supply when the token launched, but with that, we could also see 103 trillion SHIB was bought for just 38 ETH. The time of the purchase was about $10,000, but today is worth over $2.5 billion. And that wallet address, starting with OX1406, continued to grow. And we can see that very clearly from when they started accumulating it from August to October. And when SHIB surged, it was eventually worth $5 billion at the Pico top. But to stay safe, we can quickly see, is this user dumping or holding these funds? And how many of these wallets actually controls it? We saw very quickly that they split the 14 addresses originally holding this into 150 addresses. And of course, this isn't just shown on the native Bubblemaps. When you click magic nodes, this activity is impossible to miss. They're able to dilute and ship all of those tokens around to a variety of different addresses, trying to hide their paper trail. Magic nodes helps you identify these clusters and very consciously make decisions. Is this person dumping from any of those wallets? How quickly can we analyze this? What does the bundling look like? And is it actually a good time to get in or out of a coin? Did the bundle drop, sell out of their tokens, or are they still holding them? Is it high risk because they own so much of the supply? And get a better understanding of how much of that token is actually owned. Now, of course, continuing to use these features and functionalities, one key thing that we can do here is take a look at something like the Trump token. And we're going to do this one in real time so you can take a look here and actually see. So on the day that it launched 5 months ago, the 18th of January, we could see 89% of this token was owned by one person. And with this map history, we can very quickly utilize the functionality to see who, what, when, where, and how did this token change. After just a month, what happened? 95% of the token supply was owned by that one wallet. Same wallet address went up 6% in just a month. So very quickly, we're able to take a look at historical patterns here. And the key thing to note, because of that time difference, this wallet potentially seeded these other wallets, funded them, and dispersed those funds into different wallets, creating this cluster that we can see. It's not just the main 80% wallet. We've now picked up an additional 13% of the token supply, separated out into a variety of different wallets, which we can actually track here. So you can see very quickly all these highlighted wallets on the right are all of the tokens that are owned by that singular wallet. Of course, you still have things like Binance, where they send tokens to. Some other key moments in here. So Binance, Kraken, Gate, BitGet, MEXC, all still seeded and sent tokens from the primary holding wallet. Not unsurprising to see something like this. But because we can actually track it all the way up until about 2 days ago, that wallet still owns 93%. And that is still, of course, stemming to things like exchanges and more, but the token supply has not shifted much, which means still owned heavily, managed by insiders, all those key things. Not surprising from the Trump token itself. Now, the last thing to actually take a look at here, and using these tools from magic nodes and time travel, we can also quickly identify how much of tokens are supply control, whether you want to admit it or not. We actually saw Nero on Ethereum launch in PvP, or player versus player head-to-head combat against the Solana token. And many people speculated that the ETH one may actually run more, but 78% of the supply in the ETH, Nero on ETH, was sniped at launch and spread out amongst many wallets. At the time of the thread that Bubblemaps put out July 30th, 2024, the insiders had already made 4.5 million and still owned 66% of the supply. And on top of that, when you go in and take a look at the bundle and see how much of the cluster is owned, basically every single wallet. They spread the tokens out over 400 different addresses, which is clearly visible by the Bubblemaps itself. And the map was recreated because of so many intermediary wallets that were empty. So as somebody sends a wallet to an intermediary wallet and sends it out, those middle ground where they tried to obscure their paper trail was drained, essentially zeroing it out, making it seem like these tracking tools did not have any volume or any traction in it. But thanks to things like Magic Node, you're very quickly easily able to identify how much of these tokens are controlled by how many different wallets. And if you used a tool like this during that PvP meta, you would have quickly been able to not go into this one that was supply controlled at 78% and buy the other one during this PvP meta, which ended up running significantly higher. So using tools to your advantage, diving into the ecosystem, and actually leveraging free products like Bubblemaps, you can quickly make the right decision. You would have been able to steer clear despite all the PvP meta, buying the dips on the less supply controlled Nero, and ending up making a great trade as the massively supply controlled liquidity draining Nero that had 4.5 million in profit and still owned 66% of the token supply, staying clear of that and making just a much better decision. So I hope you learned a thing or two in this video. We broke down 3 different ways and 3 real applicable situations that you can analyze tokens in real time using things like Magic Node and time travel to analyze historic actions, analyze clusters, get all the information that you need to be a better on-chain trader. And all of this is completely free through Bubblemaps. So what are you doing? Hit the like, hit the subscribe, go dive into Bubblemaps, get an edge up on the market. We'll catch you next time.